Someone who's watching this, a lot of the people, or pretty much all of our audience, or a lot of them are probably pretty into the privacy world. Why is it important for Chrome to give better privacy? And it's an important question because a lot of people in the privacy space don't care if the mainstream options get more private and more secure. But why should they care, and why is that something that you're focusing on?
The first reason is simply that Chrome has, the majority market share. And if you include browsers that are using the Chrome code base, which includes Edge and Opera and Vivaldi, it gets up near 80%. So having privacy protections built into Chrome or into Chromium means that we can really protect everybody. And I care more about just me and my privacy nerd friends. I want everybody to have this opportunity to be able to use the web privately. And I think there's also something important about what happens if the whole society has privacy. It means that we have a better chance of having a democratic and free society over the long term. That if a tyrant or would-be tyrant tries to abuse all the information they're collecting to, let's say, get rid of our freedoms or our civil liberties, that people will be able to protect themselves.
The next story is infuriating. The DEA bought customer data from rogue employees instead of getting a warrant. For years, the DEA, which is the Drug Enforcement Agency, secretly paid workers inside US agencies and companies for access to user data rather than going to a court to obtain a search warrant for such data. That included paying sources inside the parcel industry to open and reroute packages, airline industry sources who provided flight itineraries, dates of birth, and seat numbers, and workers at private bus companies who provided daily lists of passengers who bought tickets in cash. Now, a pair of bipartisan lawmakers are pushing the Department of Justice to tighten policies around confidential human sources that would ban the practice entirely across the DOJ, including the DEA and FBI. After the revelation of the DEA paying for information came to light in 2014 and 2016 reports from watchdog bodies, the DEA said in its own letter to the senators that the agency had updated its policy to ban payments of employees of other agencies or quasi-government agencies. But recently, Senator Ron Wyden's office was told that the DEA's policy still allows agents to pay employees inside private companies for access to data. Over the past several years, law enforcement agencies like the DEA, CPB, which I think is Customs and Border Patrol, and the FBI, as well as sections of the military, have been buying data from data brokers. This has included smartphone location data collected by ordinary apps. Critics argue that such data should ordinarily require a warrant to obtain after a Supreme Court ruling in 2018, which related to cell site location data. The agencies instead simply buy access to the data from private companies. Okay, with that, let's move into politics. We're going to start off with a story that says the FBI just admitted it bought US location data. Quoting the article, the disclosure came today during a U.S. Senate hearing on global threats attended by 5 of the nation's intelligence chiefs. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat from Oregon, put the question of the Bureau's use of commercial data to its director, Christopher Wray. Does the FBI purchase U.S. phone geolocation information? Wray said his agency was not currently doing so, but he acknowledged that it had in the past. He also limited his response to data companies gathered specifically for advertising purpose. Here's his exact quote. "To my knowledge, we do not currently purchase commercial database information that includes location data derived from internet advertising. I understand that we previously, as in the past, purchased such information for a specific national security pilot project, but that's not been active for some time." He added that the Bureau now relies on a, quote, court-authorized process, unquote, to obtain location data from companies. It's not immediately clear whether Wray was referring to a warrant or another legal device. Nor did Wray indicate what motivated the FBI to end the practice. Still quoting the article here, I'm sorry, it's kind of long. In its landmark Carpenter v. United States decision, the Supreme Court held that the government agencies accessing historical location data without a warrant were violating the Fourth Amendment's guarantee against unreasonable searches. But the ruling was narrowly construed. Privacy advocates say that the decision left open a glaring loophole that allows the government to simply purchase whatever it cannot otherwise legally obtain. U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the Defense Intelligence Agency are among the list of federal agencies known to have taken advantage of this loophole. The Department of Homeland Security, for one, is reported to have purchased the geolocation of millions of Americans from private marketing firms, and they link to all of these in the article. In that instance, the data was derived from a range of deceivingly benign sources, such as mobile games and weather apps. Beyond the federal government, state and local authorities have been known to acquire software that feeds off cell phone tracking data. Asked during the Senate hearing whether the FBI would pick up the practice of purchasing location data again, Wray replied, "We have no plans to change that at the current time."
But if only a small minority of the society knows how to use a private browser and is protecting themselves, that's probably not enough, because we all depend on each other, whether or not we're privacy focused or somebody else. So I think there's a kind of a cooperative effect for the whole society needs to be protected for this to really work.
Right. It's a good perspective to have, and it's a really important thing to highlight, because I think a lot of this mentality comes from I'm private and I'm using privacy tools, so why shouldn't anyone else? If they're not going to understand why this is a big deal, then that's their problem. Well, everyone else being private also helps you as well. So even from a selfish perspective, I don't understand why people would not want. So I'm kind of ranting here, but I think it's an important thing to highlight. So I'm glad you said it.